live. Come on. Bill O'Reilly, was it him who did that? We'll go live. Come on. Do it. We'll do live. Hi, Internet. Welcome to the International Writers Fellowship. On 26th of August, we are nearly the end of August. Next week will be in September. No, I'm not. No. As usual, I'm Daniel Hand. I'm the RPG therapist, and I am joined this week by
Jules is fine.
Well, Jules, yeah, but I was thinking you're the most recent addition to the stream, but you're also with me, the original founder of IWF. So you're both, you are paradoxically our newest member,
oldest and the youngest.
Yeah. So,
I'm not the youngest. You're the youngest. No, you're not the youngest.
I'm not the youngest anymore. I was for a very long time, but then Ember came along and robbed me of that position. I don't know.
Now you just sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
You're not sorry. Don't. Not sorry. Everybody else is ill, I believe. I believe Ember actually has COVID, so sending our love and thoughts to them. Erica, I can't remember what she said was the issue, but Gary is working. Jen is not here.
What time of the day is it? What time of the day is it in the US?
So for Ember, it would be about 1 p.m. by now, and for Erica, I think 2 or 3. I forget exactly which time zone she's in, and Jen and Gary would be 4.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, how are you, my dear? You came back.
I did.
You did.
I'm not doing too bad. I started back working on campus this week, so
yeah,
I'm not going to be there every day. But yeah, that's good. I actually got to see students yesterday.
Yesterday,
there was still some there. They didn't all just.
Sunday. Oh yeah, of course. For you, it's Tuesday.
I'm in the future. Yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna do today. I suspect, being it's just you and I, we'll probably end up talking about collaborating on novels, because that's what we've done, and nobody else has done it, so we might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
But first, as usual, let's kick off with cards. So this is my newest deck so far. This is the Legendarium Tarot, which is very nice.
You're gonna have to show me that artwork, because just flashing that box like that.
It's very fun. It's very nice to shuffle this deck as well. It's very satisfying. So right. Anyway, so where are we going? Ooh. See, the only problem with this, a problem with this deck, depending on your mileage, is that they've changed some of the names of the major arcana, and I can never remember which one is which. So I have just drawn the unicorn card, which obviously is not part of the major arcana, and I've got to. Where is it? So here we go. I could, because normally, so it's 19, so normally that would make it the sum. So it is the unicorn in this particular deck, and that is the.
Ooh, I like the color. The color scheme.
It's just a cool, just art style generally. So the unicorn, rare fortune. Summer clouds and the scorching sunlit sky sometimes paint fantastic pictures, and now I see a snow-white horse with a golden mane and a precious spiral horn. But wait, it seems to be rushing straight towards me. I've got no idea what. So the snow-white being, woven in moments from this rays of sunlight, looks magnificent. It resembles a majestic horse of unparalleled beauty. Its white coat gleams in the sun and shimmers like a precious mother of pearl. Its hooves produce a sound akin to the ringing of silver bells. The long mane and tail are adorned with flowers still glistening with the radiant morning dew. The unicorn's eyes are tender like the eyes of a charming maiden and dark like a velvety summer night. The entire scene is awe-inspiring, and as if rejoicing in this, it starts to prance as if in a wild and enchanting dance. The birds sing more joyfully, and the flowers emit even stronger, blissful, honeyed scents. Everything around us unites in the triumph of love and peace, illuminated in the bright midday sun. However, as beautiful as this creature may seem, one should not approach it suddenly to avoid startling it. Furthermore, every fortunate one should remember that the unicorn's horn adorns its head not only for beauty, but can also be dangerous for those who think it's merely a valuable trophy. Quintessence. What does quintessence mean? Does anybody know what quintessence means? I thought the
I feel
quintessons.
like I should. That's what
the
dictionary
quintessons were
called.
something that the Transformers fought. I know that much. Witnessing such an incredible and beautiful phenomenon is a tremendous rarity and an unbelievable stroke of luck sought by people for years. There is only one regret. Few will believe that all this is not mere fiction. Advice: wholeheartedly rejoice in this event and allow it to illuminate your life with a radiant golden light. Let fortune inspire you and remind you that you are the chosen one. And meditation: I step into the bright side of life. My eyes are open to witness the present shining miracle. I don't
That is very happy.
It is. See, the sun is one of the most positive cards in tarot, and yes, all of that hints at happiness. It doesn't really tell you how you. It doesn't give you much in the way of how to interpret the card.
Quintessence is the perfect essence, or the pure embodiment of something.
Oh, okay, there you go. See.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, so the sun is basically success, positivity, just going out and achieving abundance, that kind of thing. So again, the book hints at that, but it doesn't necessarily just, why couldn't it just say success, abundance? Anyway, so that's the unicorn. Success, abundance in writing or life, Jules?
So obviously I won't explain everything, but I've had a lot of big changes in the last 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty dramatic health, just even mental, just not having to drink coffee, which part of me is still very sad about, but also it's kind of nice that my brain just works.
Yeah.
But I actually had so the reason for that is I went to have dinner with a friend last night who I haven't had the chance to catch up with. And one of the things that she said to me, she was like, I noticed a few weeks ago, I was watching you. This is because I was at a church service, and she's like, you got a joy in you that wasn't there before. And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, like she noticed that without any prompting. So I was like,
yeah, a friend of mine, a few years ago now, said something very similar, that he'd stopped drinking coffee and he just cheered up slightly. So I'm thinking I should drink less coffee. But the problem, the only coffee I drink is instant coffee, which is very weak anyway, and I have 2 cups of it a day. And so I don't. I'm like, yeah, but would it make that much difference? I could give it a try,
yeah.
but I'm
not saying that's because of coffee, but yeah, I get you. Yeah. What happens when you drink espresso? Because that's what I used to have every day.
No, I don't know if I've ever had an espresso.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, I've had essentially espresso. I've been to Starbucks and Costa and had plenty of strong coffees, which is an espresso with milk. But no, I never had a straight espresso. Just in the same way I don't really like shots when I go to the pub. Just give me something to enjoy.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, how about for you? Anything came to mind?
Life again, I think life-wise, I've got some success and joy on the horizon. It's a bit of a rough patch at the minute, as you know. Work-wise, I've I'm going to a few conventions over the next few months, which will be good. Hopefully be able to
Oh, has any of that been confirmed yet, or is it still just
I'm
interest?
definitely going. Whether or not I'm on any of the panels is to be confirmed. But yeah, so if anybody watching this now or in the future is in London at the end of October or Philadelphia at the beginning of December, I'll be there. Let me know, and I'll be at MCM Comic Con in London and PAX Unplugged, not Unlimited, PAX Unplugged in December. Yeah. Hit me up. We can go.
You haven't been to either of those conventions before, I'm guessing.
No, this is so. I'm back in. I've never been to the US before in my life, and I'm going back the second time in a year. But yeah, in terms of writing, I think some of the happiness, oddly enough, is getting in the way of the writing.
Huh? You've got other things you want to enjoy.
Yeah, I'm being easily distracted.
Okay.
I've had a few ideas, but nothing really. You know, there are only so many hours in the day, and I've got shit to do. You know, I keep meaning to get around to it, but then, you know. But being as it is you and I today, as I say, so this is the OG IWF. This is, for anybody watching again now or in the future, this is what IWF was for a few years. It was just us two. And then we got Jen and Gary. Well, no, we got Gary involved first because Jen was moving. And then Jen got involved. And then
it was around 2014, 2015 that they joined us.
No, it wasn't, because that would mean it was a decade ago, and I'm not old enough for it to happen that long. No, it wasn't. Stop it.
I went and looked back at stuff on the website, and it's got dates from 2014.
That would imply that I am 10 years older than when all that started, and that's just not possible. Because
Gary didn't have any kids when we started.
Gary didn't have any kids when we started, of course, yeah.
That was an evil laugh.
Yeah. But being as it is just us, it'd probably be a good time for us to talk about collaboration, because unlike the vast majority of authors, we have collaborated on a project with somebody else. But unlike pretty much, I mean, there'll be one or two other people out there, but
do you reckon in the whole world there'll be other people who've collaborated and it was their first thing they ever
I'm sure there might be one or two others. You never know.
Makes me want to Google it.
But that's the thing. Our very first completed novel was a collaboration. You know, which, as you say,
I always get eyebrows when I start telling that story. People are like, "How do you do that?"
But because that was our experience of learning how to write a novel, I can't really imagine it any other way. I can't imagine what it would be like to not write your first novel in collaboration.
Part of me wonders if that was a side effect of it came out of a collaborative RPG. Like, it just already kind of felt a bit normal. Anyway.
Well, I mean, to give viewers the rundown. So 20 years ago, we were on an internet forum which was very bare bones, old school. Everything was, this was before,
makes me want to check and see if it's still there.
If it's still there.
If it's still be there. You keep talking. I'm just going to do some hunting.
This was when, yes, you could communicate with people on the other side of the planet, but it was all via text. There was no hope of being able to do anything. At the time we still had fax machines. But whilst we were on that forum, we played Play by Post RPG. We created characters for it. We wrote thousands upon thousands of words between us.
I'm just making minute words. I've got the original, the file, the Word
many?
document file that we need. I'm just opening it.
Oh, right.
Have a look.
Before it all inevitably fell to pieces, because things like that often do.
Yeah. Well, we also got busy.
We got because of course we just finished university, didn't we? So we went off and got jobs and families and stuff. Bath. But
oh, I wonder if Runboard's actually disappeared.
Has it?
I've just googled it and I can't find. Let me.
Oh wow.
Because I used to get notifications. But anyway, yeah, keep going.
But yeah, you and I, we both loved our characters. We thought there was story left to tell, and so we just. Oh, have you gone? Oh no,
I'm here.
You were just sat very still. And so about 10 years down the line, not quite, about 5-6 years down the line, we just got back together again and said, hey, let's write the story they deserve. And then all of a sudden, by the time we were finished, we had, I mean, the first draft was nearly 200,000 words, wasn't it? As I recall.
160?
160.
I'm just checking the original because we've got a Word document version of all the original posts, which I saved on the 10th of September 2010.
2010, my God.
Is when I extracted that. That's when we started talking about doing this. And we've saved it in 2 parts because the Word document was rather large. Oh, flip. Part 1 is 73,000 words.
Good God.
It's just the first half. Wow. I thought the whole thing was about 70,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know if the second half is about the same. So we read more than 100,000 words just with the original RPG.
And the reason that's so funny is because we wrote that, paragraph by paragraph. One person wrote a paragraph, another person wrote a paragraph, somebody else wrote a paragraph, and it just.
I think it tend to be between 500 and 1,000 words per post. I think we were often aiming for, sometimes shorter, sometimes
long.
a bit longer.
I can't imagine they were that long.
The first one that I've got there, the file I've got that's part 2 says 29,000 words.
About 100.
So over 100,000 altogether. I did the first post well. I guess I did that because
because it was your site, wasn't it? So you kicked it all.
How many words is that?
And my character was the big bad. Your character was the damsel in distress, essentially, of that one. But you kept, because you were doing your teacher training at that point, weren't you? So you needed basically a character who you could drop in and out of every now and again. And so you just.
So I had a second character. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just basically had her
and
falling unconscious every now and again, so that
okay.
Yeah, as I recall, she was always delirious, or something, so that
because the dramatic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but because you had coursework and stuff to do, so you didn't have time to dedicate to it, and just got. So you left her in a state where you could come in, potter around for a bit, and then come back later on. And we have Kraken. Hello, sir. It's just us today, the OG IWF, and we are talking about collaborations because Jules and I wrote a novel together. Well, no, not necessarily guest stars. So Jules and I founded the International Writers Fellowship 10 years ago. We're the original 2 members. And we finally conned her on
doing other things. Yeah,
we finally conned her onto the internet. But being as it's just,
and I I haven't pointed this out, but I even made my wall kind of amazing
Nice and pretty.
for this week.
Yeah.
You can't. They're
With
all Lord of the
Lord of the
Rings
Rings prints.
quotes, and then hopefully you know who that is. Surely
I know who that is. That's from Boom Flop, Robin Hobb.
Yeah, you might not know that one.
I can't see
Gary.
that one.
Gary would appreciate that.
Oh, is that from Mistborn?
The Way of Kings. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, The Way of Kings.
There is just so you know, there is a Brandon Sanderson RPG coming out.
I
A
know.
Cosmere RPG. I haven't
I have
backed
been
it.
very tempted to spend $195 US.
Do it. Do it. Join us. Join us. I won't. I'm not buying it because I have no investment.
Because
in
you
that.
have enough.
I haven't. Yeah, I'm currently reading Night's Black Agents, which is super spies against vampires. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just do what I do and just claim it as a tax credit. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So yeah. So what was your memory then? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know what? If there was ever a through line of my life, that would be it.
You need a t-shirt. You need a t-shirt with that saying and a picture of dice on it.
A picture of, yeah, absolutely. I've taken some. I've just got them lying around just because.
The $195 set, I think it comes with like dice, custom dice.
Oh, it will do. It'll come with it'll have dice. It'll have a GM screen. It'll have a couple of adventures. It'll probably have cards for you to, with.
No, that's not the GM
rules.
version. The GM version costs them more.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I'm probably not likely to be a GM.
Not with that attitude, you won't.
I said that out loud, and I was like, that was probably a bad idea to say that out loud. But I do have friends that we tried to get D&D happening, and then life and kids happen for everybody, but we got a pretty good GM if he's ready at some point in the future. He's actually coming up with his own RPG, and he's an artist as well. He's doing the artwork and everything. Every time I see him, I'm like, how's the project going? Anyway.
You don't need to spend the $195. You could live off the bog standard $95. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I could get the reader version.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean about the Game Master. $295. Holy flip! I mean,
the art, and it comes with it. Like, it's not just like it's the whole of his shared universe. It's not just the Way of Kings.
Oh yeah, it looks very nice. Don't get me wrong, but I
don't think it'll be going away. So even if I don't back the Kickstarter, I'll still.
Well, you say that, but they often, what they do with the Kickstarters, they will put something in there that is only available for the Kickstarter, and so I mean, there are just so many things that I've got down here because only available in the Kickstarter. So that would translate to like 300 Australian dollars for me. That's why I'm like, oh, I have to get my card. Yes, but by going on the Kickstarter, I got those cloth maps of Middle Earth,
which are draw worthy. So,
but anyway,
yeah, we get diverted quite easily.
We're getting diverted by shiny stuff on Kickstarter.
Sorry.
Never happens. Never happens. I never get.
You were the one who raised that.
I'm simply saying. No. Anyway, so collaboration. What was your experience? Right? Of how did you find our joint venture?
I remember it just being a really exciting, an exciting time because I had just started studying, which I'd always wanted to do, professional writing and editing. And that's why I was like, oh, I'm doing this course and I'm really enjoying it. And I've always wanted to do that thing. I should email Dan, because we had still been emailing on and off, even though the message board hadn't really been doing anything for a few years. We hadn't talked on Skype that first time on Skype was a bit weird.
Yes, it wasn't. Oh god, yeah, everything was Skype back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But like when we would get on a roll with like coming up with ideas, because we had to rebuild a whole backstory.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it wasn't. I mean, there was bits and pieces that we pulled with, but we had to kind of take apart the foundations and rebuild the thing because of so many people had been involved in the original that I think, what did I remember when we were doing that? We went back to the message board when we decided we wanted to do a novel, and we actually made a post or two for people who were still lurking around, and there were a handful of people, and actually asked for permission to check that people would be okay with that. And we decided up front that we would change all of the characters that other people had created, either by changing the name, but also significantly changing any backstory.
Well, yeah, I mean, the everything we wrote, I mean, apart from the names of your characters and my characters, bears no relationship whatsoever to that.
There were bits of the world building, like names of things that we
but I mean,
but they were kind of shared.
And we changed the map, and it's changed even more recently.
Was there a map originally? I can't remember.
Yeah, you put one up on the on the message board.
So it was all the fun things that go with writing a new story in a new world. And I think part of the reason why I wanted to try turning this one into a novel, number one, I think it actually was the longest of any of the things, because we had about 3 RPGs that we tried and that died along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And this one lasted more than 100,000 words. And there was something about this world that we both found really interesting. Like, I think we found a name for it now. It's kind of like a Flintlock fantasy world, like very early guns. And our inspiration was consciously Renaissance era rather than medieval. And just those two things together are just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
They are good fun. We did have, obviously, we had plenty of disagreements. Like, you didn't like the idea of having any kind of overt magic really early.
Yeah, I've at the beginning I was very much a historical fiction author rather than an outright fantasy. You know, and it's still very much, the magic is festering in the background rather than. I mean,
it's not wizards or anything.
No, we haven't got I cast fireball. Yet. You never
know. Well, we've kind of also, like, it's a connected to culture thing. It's it's just kind of part of the environment. And I guess people are kind of in the world, they're kind of I don't know if rediscovering is the right word. Realizing, oh, there's things in this world that are magical. We don't really have creatures or anything, do we?
Creatures?
As in, like, fantastical creatures.
Oh, right, dragons. No, we don't.
No.
We can change that.
Do we have well, maybe, I don't know. We've got, what animals? Well, horses is about the only animals that are in the story.
Might have to ponder that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I really enjoyed was just the bouncing back ideas. I mean, the countless hours we spent just staring blankly into the distance, pondering the issues, and then one or other was going, "What about this?" And then I was going, "Yeah," and squeeing about. And anybody watching us would have gone, "What the hell are they going on?" But it was.
I mean, I've never really done a full length RPG campaign, but I imagine it's probably a similar feeling to when something happens in the middle of a session and everybody's like, "Oh, that was awesome," and you know that everybody played a part in bringing that particular moment to fruition. So.
And that happened just about every day at some point. And because that's how often we spoke. It wasn't just we spoke every month or so. It was a day in, day out ongoing conversation. And then we wrote several short stories set in that world. And
I can't even remember if the short stories came first or not, or if that was after.
I can't remember either. But eventually, we actually got on with the job of writing and the way we wrote it, because it was what is now commonplace character viewpoint per chapter, and you wrote from certain characters' point of view.
We've got 4 each.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I always felt like, oh, maybe we're doing this wrong, maybe that's too many, because a lot of writing advice talks about make sure you don't have too many point of view characters.
Maybe,
but at the same time, I feel like it worked for us because we really we've only got one storyline.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing different perspectives of the same thing. And also that means that a character's internal view of themselves can be quite different from the way the other people in the group are perceiving them, which is
absolutely, and because
this creates a lot of fun moments. Yeah,
a political intrigue kind of story, and so who are the bad guys in the moment, and do the bad guys see themselves as bad guys, and red herrings, dead ends, just trying to use the points of view to sow confusion amongst our readers, but hopefully making it interesting rather than a confusing read. But you know what I mean. But
I guess the tricky balance with that is for the characters who are supposed to be the villains, or there's question marks around that. How do you do that in a way that's not feeling like you're keeping something from the reader?
Yeah, but I think we managed that by making them genuinely believe that they were doing the right thing.
Everyone's like, yeah, this is my story. I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. But the actual process was really enjoyable. So we were writing pretty much the same time, but basically one of us wrote their chapter, handed it over to the other, they edited it, then the original person edited it again, and whilst they were doing the second edit, the other person went off and wrote their chapter, and then repeat. And we churned through it quite quickly, as I recall. I can't remember how long it took us, but
we had a couple of periods, I think, because we started talking. I think it probably took us a few months to get the backstory to a point where we were happy. And we also had, did we have a spreadsheet by then of the plot story?
No, I think the spreadsheet came when we were partway through.
Track of whose chapter it was and how many words there were and all of that. So we've still got that. Where was I going with that? But we didn't actually officially finish. Although here I have to show you something that I found in my stash. I've been trying to remember where this was.
Booney's here. Hi there, Booney. Jules and I. Sorry, 1 minute. It's just Jules and I today, Booney. We're talking about collaboration, because the first novel I ever wrote and Jules ever wrote, we wrote together. And so, yeah.
Do you remember this?
We're just saying, yes, I do remember that. Yes.
So I found it, and then I opened it up.
Do you mean you lost it?
No, it was. It was in a safe hiding spot. It was good. It wasn't where I thought it was originally.
I was joking.
But I'm not sure if that's visible.
Freedom Slay, not really. Draft 1, something.
160,000 words. 9th of October 2013. And then it says draft 2 with a question mark. So.
Well, there you go.
Yep, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, so that's basically what I just found. A business card case had a little message engraved on it, and then got it sent over to you with some little snippets inside, prayer cards inside. Yeah. Inspired by something I saw from the Second World War. I've got one. Where is it? I've got one
Yeah,
too.
so I found it and I was reading through them again and I was like, I'm glad I have that thing. It's awesome. But yeah, so what does that mean? It was from starting to have conversations through to actually finishing the thing was still actually about 3 years. But in the middle of that, we got to meet in person.
We did get to meet in person, which was a big thing.
Only once ever, yeah.
Yeah, so far.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said that.
Um,
Because I just happened to be in the Northern Hemisphere on the other side of the world, and I'm like, well, I better go to the UK.
yeah, I've got to say hi.
Yeah. I was like in Turkey and Israel, and I'm like, oh, I better just
fly over to London and say hi for 5 minutes.
I mean, that flight back, it's literally the other side of the world. It was like 20 plus hours.
We went around the British Museum and then had Italian, as I recall.
And we'll have a nice photo. That one is going to have to go up on my wall somewhere too.
Yeah, it's cute, isn't it? I can't believe how young we are in that one, oh, Jules. Jesus. I've aged. But as two fledgling authors at the time, again, that just having somebody to bounce ideas off, not just I'm writing this, what do you think, but we're writing this, let's actually make decisions together. That just made the whole thing fun in a way that
and also I think one of the extra benefits of that was if one of us wrote something, we still might have had like a goal for the particular scene or whatever, but if it didn't quite hit, somebody else was able to say almost immediately, oh, that's not quite where we want it to be. So it's almost like having a built-in beta reader. And then then the talking through that was like, oh, okay, yep, I need to fix this and this. So there was
without it being harsh. You know, so if somebody wrote their own thing and sent it in, you go, oh no, not quite right. They would instinctively feel hurt by that. But whereas because you had just as much ownership of what I was writing, it was like, okay, well, you know, your opinion is just as valid on this part. Okay, and as you say, of course, we disagreed every now and again, but that tended to be about the details rather than the big stuff.
I feel like we both got a pretty good idea of each other's characters by the time we got to the end. Because I mean, every time you're writing a scene from one person's point of view, there are characters that another person kind of is steering at the same time. So,
but also it was cool that our respective.
I'm gonna have a cat. Who wants a cuddle? Oh no, he just wants to annoy me.
It was also cool how our respective talents, if you want to call it, work together. So I am very much
our strengths, yeah,
a big picture guy. I can see where the plot line goes from A to B to C to D, etc. I think that's how the alphabet works. And I'm very good at writing description and action. You're much better at writing dialogue and character motivation and stuff. Karonika.
So this is Fudge, like hot fudge.
Hot fudge.
My sweet cuddly boy who every morning wants to come and have cuddles, and cuddles doesn't mean just sitting on my lap, it means giving me kisses and sitting in my arms for a while.
Whereas my first ever internet. Karonika equals black cat.
No.
There you go.
He used to avoid when I was like on a screen because I got both my cats during COVID, and they actually figured out our mummy's working because she's talking and looking at the screen. But now he just like, no, I don't care. I want to
cuddle. Whereas my first ever internet name was the cat's in the bag, the bag's in the river. So.
Well, Jules' cat was one of. I was telling Dan the other week. Jules' cat was actually one of my first online handles when I first set up an eBay account. I actually looked at that the other day, and it was like right at the start of
And
2024.
Booney is never going to forgive me. I am now on Booney's bad list. You're still coming on my channel, though, right, Booney?
We got distracted.
We did. Us get distracted. No, never happens. I don't have ADHD. Charlene keeps telling me I have ADHD. She's probably right. I've probably got ADHD. But don't tell her I said that, because otherwise I'll never hear the end of it. But it was just, again, because writing can be a very isolating hobby, pastime, profession, however you relate to it. For most people, it is a very isolating thing. And yet our first experience of a major, sizable 160,000 word project was nothing but friendship and companionship. And I would genuinely encourage people to go. If you have, I mean, we were lucky in that our particular strengths worked together. B, we just love each other to pieces and just get on.
Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, for every success story like ours, there will be half a dozen friendships that ended.
I remember trying to hunt around the time that we were doing that for like stories and experiences from other people who collaborated, and most of what I found was stuff by like published authors who there might have been someone who collaborated and it was like a well-established author with a less-known author, and that tends to be the pattern of where that happens. Although actually I haven't looked into the story of the two guys who wrote The Expanse, because I think they were friends as well when they started working together.
But the vast majority of advice about collaboration was don't.
Yeah.
And again, I can see why, because there are so many things that can go wrong. A, you can disagree about the story. B, it's very easy for one person to want to do it and the other person just not. And we had a few periods of time where things life got in the way. I mean, I had a kid whilst we were writing. But we were understanding of that, going, look, I can't write now. You can't. Yeah, it's understandable that you can't write. So let's just put it on hold and come back to it later. Whereas if you're...
The very fact that the passage of time, like it took us 3 years to write that, and yet it's been 14 years since we even started, like puts that into perspective. We thought 3 years was a long time. I didn't know if we were ever actually going to finish it. Yeah. And then we did. Yeah. I remember the feeling of when we finally put the last word, and I think we realized we were going to get close to 160, and I said to you, you've got the last scene. See if you can make it exactly 160,000 words, and you did.
Probably, because let's face it, that's the kind of thing we do.
It's been edited down since then, but yeah.
But also, whilst we were writing the novel, we were both churning out short stories about the characters. Mm-hmm. And some of them are just amazing fun to go back and read.
I've been doing that recently, and I'm like, Frank, these are so fun.
Yeah. I love that feeling where you go back and read something that you wrote 14 years ago now, apparently, and think,
yeah, well, I went
because pretty damn good. I like this. Who wrote this? The guy's good.
Because I've got
yeah,
in the book. I went back and read it, and I was like,
not too shoddy.
Yeah. Although there's kind of spoilers. I didn't mention that last week for anybody who was going to have a go at reading. I'm like,
yeah. Spoilers. But but yeah, so I appreciate that there are a lot of things that could go wrong, but if you approach it with the right mindset, it's such an amazing experience. I mean, I wouldn't give that experience up for a million years.
No.
You know,
And
and
I think anybody who's ever enjoyed collaborating just in a normal tabletop RPG would, if they could find somebody that would work, they would work together well in writing also. Then that kind of translates. And we kind of figured out our process as we went.
Yeah.
It was kind of a mesh of the way you work and the way I work. Like, it's still, like, for me, I'll get an idea for a scene. Often there's a visual element in my head, and I have to start at the beginning of the scene and right through to the end. But you, with your coming up with the words of dialogue and then stitching in stuff around that, my brain's like, I don't know how that works, but it works.
Yeah, and we just kind of fell into the routine of, well, that's just how Jules writes, that's just how Dan writes, and not we at no point did we try and change each other's approach.
Nope.
And
I mean, you still use a Neo now, don't you?
Officially, but when I do writing, I still use my Neo. But
and I was using Scrivener pretty early, and you didn't like that.
I'm
glad we had the website.
Yes.
Although I feel like, so we set up a Google Sites website when Google was first doing websites, free websites. We both had Gmail anyway, and that worked really well. But the new functionality, I was looking at it again the other day. This is so clunky for what we want it for.
It does. See, I don't know if I'd want to change though, because it's now what I know.
I know, but just even adding new stuff on there is so.
Well, we'll have that chat later.
Anymore.
That's not part of this.
Yeah, I know. I sent you ideas.
Did you?
Yeah, look, we can talk about that another day. But
okay. I didn't realize you sent me something. Sorry.
I sent you in. I was like, oh, what are our alternative options? And then someone suggested using OneNote as a substitute for a wiki, and I was like, oh yeah, you can collaborate. You don't have to worry about whether it's private or not. And it has a lot of the things that we were already doing. But then I was like, oh, transferring everything over would be a bit of a job. But anyway.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But that was the process. I wrote my bit, just basically copied and pasted it. So the way I write on my Neo, transfer it to a Word doc. I gave it the once over, then just copied and pasted it onto this website that we both had sole access to. Jules copied and pasted it onto Scrivener, presumably, and worked through it.
So, I mean, there exist at least three copies of it in the world.
Yeah.
Well, 4 if you count the actual physical version right there.
Yeah. And then we went and did the same thing for draft 2.
Yes, which maybe it's worth talking about draft 2 and also getting feedback from some of the OG players as well.
Yeah, so we, because Gary and Jen were also players in the original RPG, but they weren't able to commit to helping with the novel. And so, yeah, once we'd finished draft 1, or was it draft 2 that we finished? And sent it out?
No, they read draft 2.
They read draft 2. So we went off and did draft 2 and then sent it out to 2 people who had played. Oh, sound?
I can still hear everything.
Oh, let me just check. Oh. Hello?
Oh, maybe it was just temporary.
Okay, no, apparently we're fine. Oh, I don't know what I've done there. But
so I think we actually might have the revisions for draft 2 was just cutting stuff that we were like, yeah, that's actually not necessary.
Yeah, we don't need that.
What do we might go from 160,000 words down to 140?
Still no sound.
Sad.
So let me just see what's going on. Can we hear anything here?
it still sounds exactly the same for me.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitch and it seems to be working
Oh,
fine.
the headset turned off.
Oh,
Well done.
thanks.
Yep, I
Okay,
bump the
good.
mute button sometimes when I'm in the middle of a Teams call, and I'm like, oh wait, it's me.
That is exactly that's the kind of thing I would do all the time. In fact, you logged on earlier and you said, I can't hear you, Dan. I can hear tons of things. I just can't hear you because I'd muted my mic because at some point I had evidently deemed it necessary to hit the mute button.
So draft 2 we got down to 140, and then I think we just started actually meeting both Jen and Gary on a semi-regular basis. What we were doing about once a month or something.
Yeah, or was it once every 2 weeks? No, it was once a month.
I mean, regularity of that changed as people's
and that was how IWS started. It just started as the four of us exchanging writing and giving each other feedback on it. And so as part of that process, we sent them Freedom Slaves and said, would you mind giving us feedback on this? And
I think we knew it worked when they both got to the end and they were like, I didn't see that coming, because we never got to finish the story in the original game. And I was like, okay, because we tried to do like, there's a bit of a surprise at the end that we tried to not hide in an artificial way, but try and make it, oh, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it worked.
Well, also because obviously they gave us feedback portion by portion. It was either chapter by chapter or group of chapters by group of chapters. And it was very, and they speculated about the odd thing here and there. And I do remember one, a particular piece of feedback from Gary, which would be major spoilers. So won't repeat it here. But it was just super cool to see there, because again, it's a political intrigue story. You want things to not be 100% all the time, and to see things just slot in place at the time we wanted things to slot in place was very satisfying.
Very.
So,
but I think that makes me think about where we're at now. So we need to do a draft 3, we know, and part of the biggest reason for that is we've got one character that we both never quite felt like we had figured out fully.
Right.
Didn't quite fit well, and also our villains, I'd always felt like, ooh, just a little bit not as nuanced as I want.
No, well, and not as nuanced and not as well presented, I think,
as any of the rest of the characters.
No.
Main viewpoint characters. So, yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, because the problem we've had, and the reason it isn't out on the market now, is because we never actually got round to draft 3. And again, perfectly legitimate reasons. I'm busy now. I've been writing.
You started doing your counselling. When did you start doing your counselling training?
Oh, don't ask me that.
It was probably around that time too, and
then
2014.
I think I've been doing this about 10 years. So yeah.
Yeah, 2014 was when I started doing my masters.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was working on my own novel.
Yeah, you wrote you wrote an entire novel.
Yeah.
By yourself. I wrote.
Yeah. So
and a few others.
I remember the distinct feeling of getting to the end of Freedom Slaves, and my brain moved from, I'd really like to not write a novel one day, to I actually can do this. Like, that was probably one of the biggest confidence boosters.
Yeah.
And then was able to so I started my masters, and I was working full time, and I was studying part time, like 2 subjects a semester, and I still managed to at the same time write my own novel. I look back and I'm like, how on earth? I don't know. Yeah. And then, yeah. So. But we have plans now. My brain has suddenly, we got ideas coming, and I'm like, oh, we can get these villains right. It's gonna, yeah.
Well, if we get the villains, we need to get a bit more lore right in the background. We need to get that cat. We need to get Mirza figured out.
And I also remember feeling like even as we were writing, we were both coming up with ideas for, oh, maybe that could go in a book 2. And then you were like, oh, we just got to do book 1 first.
Yeah.
And now we've realized, oh, maybe if we want this book one to work, we probably need to actually have a decent sketch of what would happen in the other.
Yeah, exactly.
The other 2. Probably going to be 3.
And that's the thing, because as part of the collaboration, it's like with any project, especially a long form one, it changed. The story we ended up with was vastly different to what, the RPG that we started with. And as you said earlier, when we originally started, I was very anti-magic. I wanted it to be kind of hinted at, but not necessarily present. Whereas now we've got an entire magic system in place, and it is going to have major effects in later books.
I'm like, is it a Brandon Sanderson hard? It's not really a hard magic system, not in the way that he
not in the way he did it, no. But it's not in the way he does it, but at the same time, it's not the way he does it.
it's things that mess with the way the world works, but not in a casting spells way.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so what we're saying is we need to get on with draft 3. Is that the consensus?
Well, we have had every time someone reads, because I had a couple of beta readers. Did you have any beta readers at your end who were reading for us?
Charlene's read it.
Yes.
Charlene has read it, and she keeps telling us.
And pretty much every time someone finishes that, they're like, "So when are we going to get book 2?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like we've already got some scenes and bits and pieces. We got characters who are kind of mentioned from a distance in book 1, who we've got short stories for them.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really enjoyed about short stories, we tell this story. We had a point in the middle of writing the novel that I remember, and we were both like, oh, I don't think I could ever write a sex scene. And then you were like, and I just stopped one day and I was like, Dan, why can't you do that? And you were like, well, if I do it, then you have to do it too.
And then I did it I did it with two characters from the story, and
so did I. And then your comment to me afterwards, and you were like, I wrote a sex scene and you wrote a love scene. And I was like, oh yeah. But that's just the way my brain works.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I ever told you, I did actually go back and rewrite that scene from the other person's point of view.
No, you did not.
I did. I don't think I've shown you that one.
You have not shown me that. Oh my god. Well, guess what? You're emailing me as soon as we finish.
I actually found it the other day and I was like, oh, okay, yep, that one's going to make me blush a little bit.
Yeah. Right, well, we're at the top of the hour. One piece of advice, Jules, for somebody who is thinking about collaborating on a writing project with another person. Any specific piece of advice?
I feel like the reason that it worked for us is because we figured out that we just enjoyed writing together without that pressure to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if we'd had that experience previously, it wouldn't have made sense. So yeah, there needs to be a bit of we'd have those experiences of feeling like we're on the same wavelength, even though we still think quite differently.
Mm-hmm.
And to have fun. Like that's just my underlying experience of the whole thing was like, man, that was fun. And even going back and reading stuff, and I'm like, man, it's fun.
Especially
really need to get that out into the world.
In the middle of this novel.
I think our other dilemma as well, which we still haven't quite figured out what that would look like, is how on earth do you publish something like that? Because we were both like, what publisher is going to take 2 people who've never published
I suspect it will be
any novel before? Yeah, but I'm so glad we're in an era now where that doesn't come with any stigma attached anymore.
No. And
completely
for me
normal.
personally,
So,
my advice would be that just kind of either not, it depends on what you're writing, obviously, but if it, try not to put too much pressure on it. Treat it, because if it becomes this big thing in your mind that has to be done a certain way, that's just going to lead to arguments. You know,
yeah.
just you've got to accept that the other person is going to want to do some things their own way, and as long as you allow them to do that, and as long as they allow you to do things your way, then it's going to work. As soon as you say, right, so as you mentioned earlier, you write very much from the beginning of the scene through to the end of the scene, whereas I write a bit up here, a bit down there, a bit down there, a bit back up here, up here. And if you come to me and say, no, you've got to do it like this, that just wouldn't have worked. We'd have fallen out and we would have got nowhere. And you know, discussing the story, like the levels of magic, you know, we had an honest conversation about it, and we found a balance that made us happy. So that would be one side of that coin. If on the other hand you're writing a professional piece for, you know, be it academic or just you've got a deadline, you know, somebody's commissioned you to write this piece of fiction, be it a short story, you know, that's slightly different. But if you're in those circumstances, then presumably you're both in it knowing that you've got a deadline, so you're going to work together to achieve it. I think the death, you know, the final nail in the coffin for these kind of projects is when one person ends up doing all of the work and the other just vanishes.
And thankfully, our outside of writing skill sets also complement each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was, because God, what was the other on board that a lot of our members were members of?
Scribes.
Because she started writing a collaborative novel, I believe, and that just, I think so, but it fell to pieces because the person she was writing with just never.
Okay. So actually, probably another big part of that is just having regular communications.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking every single day, and which is incredible when you think about it. I had a toddler at the time, and you and I are on opposite sides of the planet, and yet just about every day we were talking about plot points, specific sentence
structure. Even if it was just using the website to communicate.
And
that's one of the things I miss about the website, is that used to give me notifications when you posted something, so I would know to go and have a look. It doesn't do that.
And the number of multicolored conversations where you would write something in one color, I would respond to it in a different color, you would respond to that in a different color, and we just had a rainbow conversation. It was fantastic. I loved it.
So, yes, definitely don't shy away from it, but like, you got to be honest with each other the whole time. And especially with the feedback too, I feel like we were like, and also being able to see all of the good things in somebody else's writing, even if the whole is not quite where you think it might be. Oh, this part was awesome. And
that's the other thing.
Maybe that's not quite there.
Supportive of each other. That was the other lovely thing, because we just like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is amazing, and then it was like, this isn't as amazing, but this is amazing. And
well, we went from being professional, well, I don't know if professionals are the right word, we were working together on a project, and then we became friends.
Yeah, and it was and again, just to take us right back to how we started, I'm so happy that was my introduction to this profession. So,
and then you've gone and so you've managed to figure out how to do my brain doesn't do short stories easily.
Yeah.
So you managed to publish a bunch of short stories, and because my brain thinks in novel-sized ideas, I haven't, other than the short story in the anthology, I don't actually have anything out in the world, but that's going to change.
A bit better.
And while we work on draft 3, I will probably also be working on my novel for my PhD too. But my brain's like, that's okay. You don't even need coffee anymore. You're good.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's 7 o'clock in the morning for you, isn't it, right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're an absolute lunatic. Jesus Christ. 7 a.m. is midnight. It's a myth. It doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. Cool. Right. Well, I think we best call it a day there, given time. Lovely having you on board at long last, Jules. Glad you found me. Booney, thank you so much.
As long as I'm not unwell, I will intend to be here pretty much every week.
Yeah,
and it'll be nice when the time zones change again. So October.
we're a bit closer.
So, yes.
Next week, for anybody who's just lingering or tunes or watches on playback, next week, so the 2nd of September, Kyoko M will be back with her amazing just take on absolutely everything. So do make a point of joining us then, because she is absolutely adorable. Other than that, again, I hope Ember and Ember and everybody else gets better, and we will speak to you next week. So thanks a lot, guys, and have a good one. Cheers.